The Environmental Protection Agency has taken a bizarre turn, as has Donald Trump's tweeting, and Charles Blow, writing about Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler in the New York Times last Friday. There's a confluence here. There's a single storyline that goes through all of these. And the single storyline is that we're being lied to. We're being scammed. You know, we were just in the last hour talking about the moving company, you know, this cancer within the moving industry that apparently is only a relatively small percentage of movers, but you know, that they basically rip people off. I was a victim of this, as was our last guest, as were a number of our callers. But you know, that's almost small time. I mean, that's just, you know, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry because, you know, on average Americans move every 7 years, but not every American when they move hires a moving company. A lot of people just fill up the U-Haul or get a friend with a van and make 6 trips. I mean, I've certainly done that. We moved 4 or 5 times in Michigan when we lived in Michigan, and we never hired a moving company, just always did it ourselves, get a U-Haul. But when you're hauling your stuff from, you know, DC to Portland, it's a kind of a different game. But all this stuff is happening around, you know, these lies that I'm talking about. Well, for example, Donald Trump this morning tweeting that United Kingdom, this wasn't this morning, this was actually October 20th, United Kingdom crime rises 13% annually amid spread of radical Islamic terror. Not good, we must keep America safe. And he put that in quotes. United Kingdom crime rises 13% annually amid spread of radical Islamic terror. Put it in quotes. The President of the United States. Where did that quote come from? Turns out it was on a segment of One America News Network, OANN, according to a piece over at Media Matters for America. This is, you know, which is pretty breathtaking. That the president, who has access to the CIA, the FBI, all the intelligence, you know, naval intelligence, every intelligence service, we got, what, 27 intelligence agencies in the United States? He's getting his intelligence from right-wing television news, either Fox News or One America News. And in fact, One America News ran a story about this just before Trump tweeted it. And in the story, they actually had a chyron, you know, those little words at the bottom of the screen that sometimes they're referred to as bottom thirds, although technically that's a slightly different thing, that essentially said the same thing. And this is, you know, and Trump has a history with this network. This network hired Corey Lewandowski. This network has repeatedly hosted Jack Posobiec, a right-wing troll who pushed the Pizzagate conspiracy theory, according to Media Matters. So you've got that. You've got Charles Blow writing about Hitler's lying, excuse me, Trump's lying. The headline is Trump isn't Hitler, but the lying. And he quotes from Mein Kampf. This is literally word for word from Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, which translates into My Struggle in English, by the way, if you never knew. And Hitler says, and I quote, "In the big lie, there is always a certain force of credibility, because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily. And thus, in the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more readily fall victim to the big lie than the small one, since they themselves often tell small lies in little matters, but would be ashamed to resort to large-scale falsehoods. It would never come into their minds to fabricate colossal untruths, and they would not believe that others could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously, even though the facts which prove this to be so may be brought clearly to their minds. They will still doubt and waver and will continue to think that there may be some other explanation. For the grossly impudent lie always leaves traces behind it, even after it's been nailed down, a fact which is known to all expert liars in this world and all who conspire together in the art of lying." End of quote from Mein Kampf, from Adolf Hitler. This is what Franklin Roosevelt had to say about this, and in this context, he was speaking about the Republicans. Here he is.
Remember, a number of years ago, there was a book, Mein Kampf, written by Hitler himself. The technique was all set out in Hitler's book, and it was copied by the aggressors of Italy and Japan. According to that technique, you should never use a small falsehood, always a big one, for its very fantastic nature would make it more credible. If only you keep repeating it over and over and over again.
So one of the big lies that keeps getting repeated over and over and over again by the Republicans is the need to deregulate our economy, the need to deregulate American business, the need to free up those moving companies from those onerous regulations, the need to free up those chemical companies from those onerous regulations. Trump rules is the section of the New York Times today. Eric Lipton writing an article. The headline kind of says the whole thing. Why has the EPA shifted on toxic chemicals? An industry insider helps call the shots. A scientist, this is the subhead, a scientist who worked for the chemical industry now shapes policy on hazardous chemicals. Within the EPA, there is fear that public health is at risk. He talks about perfluoroctonic acid, or PFOA, a chemical linked to kidney cancer, birth defects, immune system disorders, and other serious health problems. So scientists and the administrators in the EPA's Office of Water were alarmed in late May when a Trump administration appointee insisted upon rewriting a rule to make it harder to track the health consequences of this chemical, PFOA, and therefore to regulate it. The revision was among more than a dozen demanded by the appointee. This is a woman by the name of Nancy B. Beck, after she joined the EPA's Chemical Unit in May as a top deputy. For the previous 5 years, she had been an executive at the American Chemistry Council, the chemical industry's main trade association. The EPA's abrupt new direction on legacy chemicals is part of a broad initiative by the Trump administration. The industry has not benefited from such highly placed champions in government since the Reagan administration, writes Eric Lipton. In March, Scott Pruitt, the EPA chief, overrode the recommendation of Ms. Hamnett, an agency scientist, to ban, she's a longtime EPA person, an agency scientist, to ban the commercial use of the pesticide chlorpyrifos, if I'm saying that right, blamed for developmental disabilities in children. No, you can still use that now. The EPA's new leadership also pressed agency scientists to reevaluate a plan to ban certain uses of two dangerous chemicals that have caused dozens of deaths or severe health problems: methylene chloride, which is found in paint strippers, and trichloroethylene, that's also known as TCE, which removes grease from metals and is used in dry cleaning. And they're quoting a longtime person with the EPA saying this is very disturbing. The industry met with EPA political appointees, and that's when I was asked to change the agency's stand. And a spokesperson for the EPA was asked about this. Liz Bowman, a spokesperson for the EPA, told Eric Lipton at the New York Times, quote, "No matter how much information we give you, you would never write a fair piece." Right. Ms. Bowman, by the way, who said that, used to be a spokeswoman for the American Chemistry Council. So, are we seeing a trend here? If a business wants to rip you off, if a business wants to kill you, if a business wants to promote and sell poisonous substances, that's just fine with Trump. For every new regulation, 2 old ones have to go. Brilliant, huh? I mean, isn't this is, hang on.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Idiotic Republican doctrine of for every regulation you pass, you have to delete 2 somehow gets applauded across America? What am I missing here?